You know what day it is. Dreaded. Every screen, every game, every move, we leveling up. This ain't just for fun. This is a passion. This is a purpose. You are watching the greatest of making. From the sticks to the screen. I bring every heat, every single time. So get locked in, turn up the volume, and vibe out. Because when I go live, it's not just a screen, it's a takeover. Gaming and sports, vibes, one brand, one name. It's Dreaded. You know what day it is. Dreaded. Every screen, every game, every move, we leveling up. This ain't just for fun. This is a passion. This is a purpose. You are watching the greatest of making. From the sticks to the screen. I bring every heat, every single time. So get locked in, turn up the volume, and vibe out. Because when I go live, it's not just a screen, it's a takeover. Gaming and sports, vibes, one brand, one name. It's Dreaded. You know what day it is. Dreaded. Every screen, every game, every move, we leveling up. This ain't just for fun. This is a passion. This is a purpose. You are watching the greatest of making. From the sticks to the screen. I bring every heat, every single time. So get locked in, turn up the volume, and vibe out. Because when I go live, it's not just a screen, it's a takeover. Gaming and sports, vibes, one brand, one name. You know what day it is. Dreaded. You know what day it is. Yeah, you know what time it is, baby. Yeah, it's that time. Hope y'all having a good day today, man. Tomorrow's Friday. College football starts tonight. Ain't too much to watch, but at least the game's on. Football, the game of football back. Hope y'all having a good day, man. Hope y'all having a good day, man. How y'all doing today? Make sure y'all follow me on TikTok too, man. Follow me follow me at TikTok. On TikTok, it's Dre Day. Make sure you follow me, man. Like, subscribe to the channel. If you popping in, man, make sure you like, subscribe to the channel, man. Hope y'all having a good day. You know what I'm saying? And remember, keep God first. Hope y'all having a good day. You know what I'm saying? Just make sure, stay prayed up. Keep them first. Whatever you're going through, just keep pushing through, man. Take it day by day, and it'll get better for sure. But other than that, man, we're here to talk about South Carolina Gamecocks. Uh, they play Sunday at 3 o'clock. I'm just doing a quick game prediction. You know, we already know how it's gonna come out, but I'm gonna still do a quick game prediction, man. And South Carolina Gamecocks will be playing Virginia Tech Sunday at 3 in Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. It's gonna be a good game. Of course, you got the Ohio State game versus Texas at 12. Pretty early to say, but you know, that gonna be a good game, man. A lot of people, that's a big fuss, man. A lot of people talking about who gonna win that game. I hear people saying Ohio State, people saying Texas. I had dropped a video, a couple of videos on that, on TikTok and also on YouTube on this platform. Um, yeah, man, y'all, if y'all go check it out, man. Like, subscribe, and comment on that video. Let me know your thoughts on that video. And plus on the game. I'm choosing Texas. I think Ohio State lost too much, and they got to replace all the people they lost: wide receivers, running back, quarterback. It's a lot you got to replace, especially on defense end. You have a whole lot you got to replace, man. So, you know, I don't know, man. It's week 1, man. A lot of people expecting too much. It's week 1. Got to understand, these college players don't get a preseason. They don't get no preset game, so they just jumping right straight in the game. You know what I'm saying? They're just like hitting the road, like hitting and running. You know what I'm saying? No preseason. This is not the NFL. You don't get nothing like you don't get no preseason game. You don't get enough a chance to knock the dirt off, knock the rust off. You gotta go out there. If you make a mistake, hey, make a mistake, get better. But but let's get into it, man. We're gonna talk about the South Carolina Gamecocks. Pull this up real quick. A couple videos of guys talking about game prediction, man. Gonna jump right into it, man. Let's go.
At IHG Hotels and Resorts, you can explore the neighborhood or live like a local. Unplug for the day or plunge into a long weekend. With IHG's 20 hotel brands, you can guest how you guest.
You got Vatek in Atlanta, Georgia, 3 Eastern on a Sunday. Again, a little Sunday action. The beauty of week 1, college football, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and a Monday. But this Sunday game on ESPN, Mercedes-Benz Stadium in the hometown of everyone, Caden Smith. You got South Carolina favored by 7.5. Well documented last year. Then it end.
Take them. Take the points. South Carolina Gamecocks will definitely beat this team more than 8. I mean, more than 7. Take that 7.5. I'm telling you. Take that 7.5. I mean, like I said, the game gonna start slow. Excuse me. As the game get going, them guys gonna get telling you, them guys gonna get rolling, man. Once they get running that ball, you know what coming over the top. They coming. So yeah, man, take that 7.5, man. I'm most definitely taking.
How they wanted it to end. Win 9 games, close but no cigar, on the back door of the college football playoff. Door got locked on them in the last minute. This is a year now where, as you start the season off, it's got to be like, hey, let's go do this thing kind of vibe to it for Shane Beamer. Like, go do it. Got a lot of talking at the end of last year, and a lot of talking at the end of last year was about what you didn't do early on in the year. Go watch that Netflix series from Any Given Saturday, the SEC special they did, which was awesome. Shane Beamer is addressing a lot of the things that happened for South Carolina early on in the year as to why they weren't a team in the college football playoff at the end of the year. Don't talk about this Va-Tech game as the reason why you got left out. Well, we lost the opener to Va-Tech, but then we kind of caught fire and we won 9 games. Nope, don't do that. Don't do the conversation of we're a different team in November, because the committee has proven now on multiple occasions, especially this last season, it's about the whole body of work. And so to get a win in this spot on national television on a Sunday with everyone watching, being the only game on this time slot that is, Miami Notre Dame later on that Sunday, that would be huge. I think that'd be very, very huge. I think that would show a lot of, maybe maturity is the word, breakout kind of feel to it for South Carolina. Been the darling of the offseason, but go prove that it's not just we got hot at the end of last year. We're actually one of these teams you got to deal with. Now for Virginia Tech, all the talk around South Carolina, nobody's really talking about Va-Tech. Like last year, there was the momentum because you were number 1 in returning production, and Kyron Drones finished strong, got the keys to the offense at the end of the year before. But like now, it's kind of died down after a year that was touched disappointing, to be honest. Now only 2 starters back on offense, a new offensive coordinator in Philip Montgomery. Like a lot of question marks, I think, across the board for Va-Tech. But if you can harness that and use that as ammo for this game. They're talking about South Carolina. They're talking about Sellers and the Heisman and all that. Like, yo, we're a 7.5-point dog. Are they that much better than us? I mean, is it truly like, should we even play the game? Like, I would take that ammo, take that motivation, and I think that makes Virginia Tech, in some ways, a bit of extra danger in this spot. Non-negotiables for this game. If I am South Carolina, you have the more talented roster. You definitely have the more talented player pulling the trigger at quarterback. No knock on Kyron Drones. I just think Sellers is special. There were a couple of times a year ago, Caden Smith mentioned it a little bit earlier in the show, LaNorris Sellers got a little bit fumbly, okay? A little bit of popcorn fingers, okay? You cannot fly too close to the sun here if you're South Carolina. Because what I just said, your roster on paper should be better than their roster. You should have better guys than they have. If LaNorris Sellers gets caught up trying to play superhero football, and that leads to pressing and mistakes, that's how.
That's the problem, man. That's the problem right there. South Carolina would have to, they gotta have to put. That's what I was talking about. They gotta put enough around him, like good running backs. So like he don't have to have the ball in his hand all the time. You know what I'm saying? And that come with the wide receivers also have to get open. You know what I'm saying? That's why you have to have good wide receivers in play, because long he had that ball in his hand, he gonna run. He gonna look for a run. He gonna look to run. That's why the guys gotta get open and off him. I'm gonna look for South Carolina probably do little quick plays, probably little screen plays a little bit. So get the game going. So get the defense to come up, probably run the ball a little bit, probably option plays, get the safeties look in the backfield, come over the top, right to it. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm looking for Virginia to do. Look for South Carolina to run the ball, and the safety's gonna have their eyes in the backfield, worrying about LaNorris Sellers. Over the top, Nick Harper. You know what I'm saying? That's why you gotta take that 7.5, man. Make sure you take that 7.5. Tell you, most definitely, man. You're gonna thank me later.
Va-Tech gets some belief, gets some juice, gets some momentum. Hey, we actually are in this thing. Because I think, transparently, if Va-Tech wants to win this football game, or if they're going to win this football game, it would take winning in the turnover margin. I really believe that. So for Virginia Tech, kind of in tandem with that, don't let one dude beat you. Like, you go watch the Clemson game. Probably watch the A&M game, too, just for good measure to see what he's capable of. LaNorris Sellers put on the cape and was just like, I'm the best player today. Get on my back. We're not losing this game. That was how that went, especially against Clemson. Like, go watch that tape. If I'm Virginia Tech, I'm saying anybody but 16. If it's Faison, cool. He's been on the team for the better part of an offseason. Like, if that's how we lose that way. If it's Nicholas Harbor, the sprinter who's now rounding into form as a wide receiver, cool, man. But it's not number 16, making us look stupid, and we can't get them on the ground. We got them dead to rights in the backfield.
They're gonna be the running back, man. They're gonna be the running back to beat y'all. I'm just saying.
That's not how we're losing this football game. If you can just say it's not 16 for us, okay, we can live that way. We can live that way. Matchup I'm curious about here, though, for Virginia Tech offensively, can you just find a way to stay ahead of the sticks? Because they were just atrocious on third down a year ago, man. Like 95th in America. It's not going to cut it against this team. Not going to cut it against that quarterback. Not going to cut it against Dylan Stewart. So with all the new pieces on offense, they did grab a running back via the portal very quietly from the Maction, from Bowling Green, Terrion Stewart. Like 5'9", 222, almost 1,000-yard back a year ago. He could be a guy now. If you get to like 3rd and 4 and in from that number, he could be a guy that you turn around and hand the football to. Also, Kyron Drones. What are we talking about here? Like we talk about the physical acumen of a Lenora Sellers. Kyron Drones has got some of that to him as well. Big body.
Why do some men stay strong and vital well into their 60s while others become weak and tired? Take a look at these two men. Both former Marines, friends since boot camp, both 62 years old. But when they meet up for their yearly fishing trip, the difference in their energy levels is shocking. Look at Ed. This guy used to be a powerhouse back in the Corps, but now he can barely make it from the parking lot to the lake.
Body, fall forward, all those things. If you can stay ahead of the chains at that level, this could be a spot where Virginia Tech keeps Sellers on the sideline, prolong some drives, improve your third down percentage a little bit, maybe explosives open up downfield later in the game. That would be how you have to win this football game. That would be how it happens. Because also, when you stay ahead of the sticks, you stay out of third and passing. Third and passing means Dylan Stewart puts his ears back and he's getting after you. Not a world you want to live in if you're Virginia Tech. If I'm South Carolina, can we have a wide receiver go win for us here? Like, can we just, whether it's, I've said all the names now multiple times, but Harbor, Bennett, Jaden Sellers, heck, the freshman that's Lenora Sellers' brother. Like we used to do in the backyard, brother. Like, just go deep, go win. There's going to be, I think, so much attention in the box with Sellers, with Faison, with what they were a year ago on tape, with trying to, I think, if you're picking your poison here, you want Sellers to beat you with his arm, even though he did a couple times last year. I want to find a way to apply pressure to that Vautech offense that has a new OC, that has 2 returning starters, that has a quarterback that was dinged up last year, and you're not 100% sure what he's bringing this year in a new system. I want to apply the pressure to them because we jumped on them early. 14-3, 10-0, whatever it is. Like, if you can have some guys go win early and create some explosives and then force Virginia Tech for the rest of the game to have to play a more honest style of defense, then Faison gets cooking. Then Sellers gets downhill. Then you have the rest of your offense opened up. So if you have
He just said it all, man. That's all we got to do, man. We literally just have to get everything going for him. You know what I'm saying? All he got to do is just all he got to do literally just get everything going. All they got to do is run the ball, get everything going. So get the safeties coming down, and Sellers throwing that ball over the top every time. You already got Nick Harper, man, the fastest guy on the field. I think nobody Virginia Tech don't have nobody to keep up with him. So yeah, man, that's all you gotta do. Let's get back to it.
guys that go win early on the perimeter here for South Carolina, that's where this thing gets, I think, potentially a little bit out of hand in Atlanta. So the Faison addition here, we already mentioned it, but he makes them just more dynamic in the offense. Just makes them something else you have to worry about within that run game. Caden Smith, if you're watching the full live show, just made a great point. The fact that you can get a defense running even more so, sideline to sideline, with his speed, with that wide zone, with the tosses, with the screen passes, all that, what that does to a defense makes them play downhill. When you have to play downhill, Harbor gets open. Sellers has more real estate to throw to. You put your hand in the cookie jar, at some point, you get caught. And I want to make sure we say this too. There is a narrative out there because Lenora Sellers is such a good runner of the football he can't throw. Go look at the numbers from a year ago. Go watch the Missouri game. Went for 5 touchdowns, over 300 yards. Dude can spin the rock. Okay, he beat Missouri with his arm. A good Missouri football team a year ago. Beat them with his arm. So if you dare him to throw it and give him extra real estate to throw it, he will beat you. So for that reason, I got South Carolina winning. I got South Carolina rolling. I respect Brent Pry. I respect Vautech. I don't love this spot, a bunch of newness versus a team that you would hope has something to prove in South Carolina, which I think they also have the best player in college football, not named Jeremiah Smith, playing quarterback for them. We'll take South Carolina to win. I think final score is South Carolina 31 Could see them getting to 34 here and stretching at 31 to 21 against Virginia Tech in Atlanta. So South Carolina wins. South Carolina covers. Again, that number courtesy of our friends at BetMGM, bringing y'all the hard count today.
This is
Damn, what they got going on? But yeah, man. Hey. Hold on, we got another one. Hold on. I ain't done with y'all yet.
Next up, and the third time in 4 games that we're having an SEC versus ACC pre.
Take that 7. I'm trying to tell y'all. Take that 7, man. Get that money. I'm telling y'all take that 7, man. I'm trying to help y'all get some money. Take that 7. Take that 7. I'm telling you, take that 7, man. Get that money. Make sure y'all follow me, man. When y'all come in the chat, make sure y'all hit the subscribe button and like and subscribe, man, to the channel, man. And follow me on TikTok, Instagram. Follow me on everything. Anything you got, man, I got. Make sure you look me up. Know what I'm saying? Subscribe and hit that like button when you come in. Come on, man. Come on, chat. Run me up. Run me up. Run me up, baby. Run me up. Let's go.
Preview here. Number 13, South Carolina against Virginia Tech in Atlanta on Sunday. Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN. The storyline to know, Dalton, it's the Battle of the Beamers, man. Because the first time since 1991 that South Carolina is playing Virginia Tech, in that game in 1991, Virginia Tech's head coach was Frank Beamer. He was the Hokies head coach for 29 years, and he was so good there, he was inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame in 2018. His son, Shane Beamer, played for him at Virginia Tech from 1995 to 1999, and he spent 5 years under his dad as an assistant coach from 2011 to 2015. So Shane Beamer, a lot of ties with Virginia Tech too, but he's now the head coach at South Carolina. Last year, South Carolina top 20 in the AP poll, their best final ranking in over a decade. 2013 was the last time. Ja'Davion Van Clowney's final year at South Carolina was the last time they were ranked that high in the final AP poll. And Shane Beamer has legitimate college football playoff aspirations this year with a star quarterback.
Most definitely. He ain't got no choice. Everybody have to build up hype for him to make the playoffs this year, man. So he got no choice to make a run to the playoffs, man. Really, I really want to win a championship this year, man. This the year, man. I don't see nobody else that have a good team other than probably Texas, but they don't have no defense like that. I don't think the defense is pretty good. Is that good? But yeah, man. I think South Carolina really have the team this year to make a deep run in playoff this year. The time is now. Let's get it.
Back in Lenora Sellers, but that all starts this week against Virginia Tech, Dalton, in a stadium that has a statue of his dad outside of the stadium. So he's going into enemy/friendly territory there. Shane Beamer is at Virginia Tech, his alma mater. So yeah, I'm really excited to watch the Battle of the Beamers.
Thought isn't this game in Atlanta, Mercedes-Benz?
Oh, sorry, Atlanta.
Right, this game neutral, but that
still has
that would be a problem.
Yeah.
But
So I'm saying Battle of the Beamers between.
It's a thing. So listen, here's the thing with South Carolina. All right, here we go. You're going to talk about a big 230-plus pound quarterback that's really athletic and has a huge arm, and everybody's favorite draft prospect with the tools, who has all those things like in Lenora Sellers, right, that everybody likes. Virginia Tech.
At IHG Hotels and Resorts, you can guest how you guest. Explore the neighborhood.
Kind of sort of got a guy like that of their own in Kyron Drones, right? And Drones is kind of the forgotten guy. He ended last season hurt. There was some struggles. Obviously, Virginia Tech went 6-7. But, one thing I'm looking at matchup-wise here, I've been saying with South Carolina, they lost a ton of pieces on this. And it was the top 5 defense in the country last year to me. When you look at all the pieces they lost, Kyle Kennard, Tonka Hemingway, TJ Sanders, Demetrius Knight, Bam Martin Scott, right? Nick Emanwori. A lot of the best players in this defense, especially up front, are not on this team anymore. They lost their 3 starting linebackers. They lost 4 of their top 5 defensive tackles. Virginia Tech wants to come in here and run the football. South
That ain't gonna work. I'm telling you, man. South Carolina had made some moves in the transfer portal. They got some guys coming in. I don't know, for some reason, man, South Carolina always getting slept on. I don't hear no talks about them making the push for the playoffs. I don't hear anything. But yeah, man, like, we replaced those guys, man. We got good linebackers, and also we have Dylan Stewart that's still there. Also, that gonna be big help on defense, man. I'm telling you, this guy is a sleeper. I did a video on him also. Y'all check that out if y'all get time. Yeah, man. We replaced a lot of them guys, man. This guy need to do his research. He need to do his research.
South Carolina last year, pass rush, elite, coverage, elite, still 28th in the country in run defense grade, but it wasn't quite as good as their pass defense, right? And in games where they gave up at least 140 rushing yards, they went 4-4. So clearly, if you can match the physicality of this South Carolina team, you give yourself a chance, okay? Obviously, Virginia Tech, I've mentioned, similar offense, run the ball, play action shots downfield over the top. Kyron Drones, 235 pounds, 82 rushing grade over the last 2 years, top 20 mark among quarterbacks, 17th among that group with 49 missed tackles forced, 13th with 46 explosive runs. He's a problem. I think when you talk about some of the most mobile quarterbacks in the country, Kyron Drones is really a problem. And now you talk about returning Jeremiah Coney at linebacker. Terrion Stewart, the Bowling Green transfer, is a missed tackle machine. Watch some of the Bowling Green tape. He just refuses to go down. Braden Bennett from Coastal Carolina. Also, this is a deep stable of rush.
Yeah, Bennett's pretty good. Yeah, I know Bennett. Bennett's pretty good from Coastal Carolina. He's pretty good. I didn't know he went to Virginia Tech, but yeah, he's pretty good. Why he went to Virginia Tech out of all schools? And he's just a backup. But I don't know. But yeah, man, Bennett's pretty good. I think he's a pretty good running back. But I don't know why he went to Virginia Tech. I think he could have went anywhere else and started at that position.
That I think if Virginia Tech can find a way to get in a rhythm with the run game early and then hit a couple play action shots, because Drones is way better on play action than he is without. He's got a 90 play action passing grade over the last 2 years. If Virginia Tech can get the wheelhouse of their run game going, I think this is a problem for South Carolina. There's not a ton of experience in their front seven right now. You've got Dylan Stewart and Brian Thomas Jr. off the edge, but you look at their defensive tackle situation and you look at their linebackers situation, there's a lot of missing pieces from last year's defense. It would not shock me at all if in this.
Yeah, make sure y'all hit the subscribe button, man. Make sure y'all subscribe and like the channel, man. Make sure when you come in, man. Thank y'all for joining the channel, man. Make sure.
This game, Virginia Tech has a lot of success running between the tackles. And even you've mentioned with Dylan Stewart, the reason that he was number 2 in the edge rankings behind Colin Simmons is because Colin Simmons is a better run defender.
Yeah.
Dylan Stewart, mediocre run defense. This front seven for South Carolina is going to have a challenge with Kyron Drones and this rushing attack that gives a lot of different looks. If they have issues early, I think there's a chance here that Virginia Tech's run game could really cause a problem for a very new South Carolina front seven.
And South Carolina's run game can also cause a problem for Virginia Tech because Lenore Sellers is back there at quarterback. And Rasul Faison, right, is officially
He was declared eligible yesterday. Yeah.
Big time news for South Carolina as well. But Lenore Sellers, really the matchup to watch on that side of the ball. Can Virginia Tech limit the big plays from Lenore Sellers? See right there. He is a...
Make sure y'all like, subscribe to the channel, man. Make sure y'all like, subscribe to the channel. Let's lock in.
Big game hunter. 4th best deep passing grade in college football last year. Most forced missed tackles among all Power 4 quarterbacks last year. No quarterback in America has the physical tools that...
Oh, yeah. Most definitely, man. Sunday. Make sure y'all come in Sunday, 3 o'clock. I will be covering the South Carolina game versus Virginia Tech. I will be covering that game, man. Play by play. You know what I'm saying? Make sure y'all come in, lock in with your boy. I'm trying to get 100 subs, man. If I get 100 subs, man, I'm doing the giveaway.
Lenore Sellers does. In fact, the only comparisons you can make are like Cam Newton, Anthony Richardson, Those are the types of athletes you have.
Freaks.
Just freak athletes. And both those guys were top 5 picks in their drafts. A lot of people think Lenore Sellers can be a top 5 pick in the 2026 NFL draft. He is a home run hitter, but also he strikes out a lot like early career Aaron Judge, big power hitter for the Yankees, but struck out a lot. Now he's obviously one of the best players
Just had to get a Yankee
in baseball.
in there.
Had to get it, of course. But Lenore Sellers, 70.9 passing grade on attempts under 20 yards last year. That was 87th in the country, well below average on short and intermediate throws last year. Also, 4.6% turnover-worthy play rate was the second highest in the SEC last year, and 11 fumbles last year were the second most among Power 4 quarterbacks. Virginia Tech last year had a really good defense, a top 30 defense in the country in terms of EPA per play. However, they were 85th in explosive pass rate allowed at almost 15%, and they were 89th in coverage grade last year, below a 70 coverage grade as a team. They also struggled with dual threat quarterbacks last year too. 7 of the 14 quarterbacks that they played last year had at least 50 rushing yards against Virginia Tech last season. So Lenore Sellers, as maybe the best rushing quarterback that we have in the country, or at least one of the 5 best in the country, with one of the biggest arms in the country as well, who wants to take those deep shots, is a really good Va-Tech defense, but also it's one that gives up big plays from last year at least, and also doesn't really do well against dual threat quarterbacks. If Virginia Tech can make Lenore Sellers win inside of the pocket in the short and intermediate range, the Hokies have a chance at upsetting South Carolina.
Yeah, I think controlling the game, the pace of the game is going to be big for them. Sellers, look, he's going to get what he gets on the ground, right? And Virginia Tech, as always, are going to have a pretty good pass rush led by Ben Bell up front. I think you mentioned it. You prevent explosives, and you talk about beginning to, have an answer for Sellers. The big thing I do like that South Carolina did late last year was not be quite so reliant on them. They got better the second half of the year, creating yards after catch for some of their weapons on the outside. They'll be replacing Josh Simon at tight end. I think that could be something of a task early here in the season. But you mentioned it. You can't let him hit the home runs. If he gets 2 or 3 of them and he turns the game upside down with one 80-yard throw, then it's going to be a wrap here pretty quick. I think Virginia Tech does need to control the pace. They need to win time of possession, keep Sellers off the field for as much as you can, but also if you have a chance to bring him down, Clemson had this problem last year for sure. If you have a chance to bring him down, you better get him down because he can do it with his legs too at any point, 60, 70, 80-yard run as well.
So in the battle of the Beamers, will Shane Beamer beat his alma mater and a program that his dad really built up, or will Virginia Tech pull off a massive upset on Sunday?
I think this game is closer than people think. I think Virginia Tech's run game, with the inexperience of South Carolina's front 7, I think could be a serious problem if they get it going. We're going to know early. We're going to know very early. If Virginia Tech gets a lead in this game, I think you have some real danger here for South Carolina. I do. And their wide receivers, for as much as Nick Harbor and those guys, they're all coming back. I do like that their top 3 receivers are all retained from last year. I do think we need to see one of those guys get proven. Most people are expecting Nick Harbor, the big 6'5", 230-pound freak out there who can run like the wind. They need somebody to be their top guy this year because they really didn't have that last year. It was just Sellers creating. I'm taking South Carolina. I have it razor thin. There is a story came out this morning, I believe, about Caleb Woodson, Virginia Tech's middle linebacker, who was arrested overnight, either last night or the night before, and he is uncertain to play in this game. We heard that from Brent Pry before the show came on. Uncertain to play in this game, very concerning. He was their highest graded run defender returning to this team, which is an issue. I think that makes a difference. And I do think Rasul Faison being named eligible for this game in time, and he's been practicing. He got a waiver to practice already, so it's not short on practice time. They weren't sure if he was going to play in any games. NCAA clearing that, I think, is a huge boost. He had a great year at Utah State last year.
And we saw how important Raka Sanders was to that offense last year.
Absolutely.
Too.
This is still for as much as everybody's talking about Sellers, this is still a team that's going to want to run the football, right? And with Faison, now you have Isaiah Augusta, who can go as the 2-back, as the goal line guy. He's more bigger, physical. Oscar Attaway from last year. You got a really good crew now with Faison, to me, as the headliner, plus Sellers running the ball. I have it close. I don't like the Woodson development at all because, again, he was their highest graded run defender returning to this team. I have it written down 31-30. I'm starting to think it might be closer to the score that you have here, but I do think this is going to be a tighter game than people think, a one-score game. But I have South Carolina 31-30, at least on paper for now. Don't like what we've heard the last few hours on the Virginia Tech side.
So you like Virginia Tech plus 7.5?
Yeah, I'm in on that. That's a good number. The 7.5 is a good number, and I do have my questions about this South Carolina defense responding to so many losses. One thing I also think works in their favor, though, the secondary with Jalen Kilgore and those guys is still going to be pretty good. I got a lot of questions about Virginia Tech's wide receivers and what exactly they have out there. I think that's a big advantage for South. If they can get if they get ahead of Virginia Tech and they make them drop back and throw the football, then I think the Hokies have a lot of problems. If Virginia Tech can get a lead.
As I see their roster, they don't. Virginia Tech don't have no wide receivers like that, man. They're not good. They are not good like people think they are. Give me a second.
And they can run the ball with some success early, and Drones gets rolling on the ground, then we got a tight football game.
Yeah. I have South Carolina winning 28-21. I just think Lenore Sellers going to have a huge day against this defense that lets up a lot of big plays, deep passing plays last year, lets up a lot of rushing yards from quarterbacks. Rasul Faison's eligible too. It could be close, but I do think Sellers will have a good day, and I think Shane Beamer will take down his alma mater in this one too. 28-21 South Carolina over Virginia Tech. When I apologize to the Virginia Tech faithful, I said Va-Tech earlier. I remember last year we called them Va-Tech. They got very upset at us in the comment section.
I thought that was the West Virginia people.
Oh, West Va too. So I think Va-Tech might be okay. West Va people got really mad.
We'll have to do a poll.
Maybe Va-Tech people got mad too.
We got to do a poll on who that's.
Maybe we should stop saying Va in general.
Probably.
Yeah, probably should. So I want to apologize. If you do get mad at that, I want to apologize.
Use proper names around here.
Virginia Tech.
Maximilian.
Virginia Technical Institute. I think we'll lose to South Carolina
there
this
you
one.
Go.
28-21.
It takes 90 seconds for this.
What y'all think, man? Who y'all think will win this game? You know what I'm saying? Who y'all think will win this game, man? Let's check out Ohio State. Ohio State and Texas. What y'all think about that? Let's check out Ohio State and Texas game prediction.
All right, so we both have Auburn taking down Baylor on Friday night. Now let's get into the Saturday slate with maybe Dalton. I know it's week 1. This might be the biggest game of the year.
It's certainly up there.
It might be the
going to
biggest
get a
game of
whole
the
lot of other 1 versus 3s. Maybe a couple others.
The favorite to win the national championship against the defending national champion. Number 1, Texas at number 3, Ohio State. In fact, Dalton, right now, the 2 favorites to win the national title on DraftKings Sportsbook are Texas and Ohio State. You see it right there. Texas plus 550, Ohio State plus 600. So quite literally, the 2 favorites to win it all this season are playing each other in week 1. Texas enters this year number 1 in the country in the preseason AP poll. It's their first preseason number 1 ranking in program history. And also, Don, how about this stat? Texas is underdogs against Ohio State. This is the first time ever that the preseason number 1 is underdogs in their week 1 game. So it's going to be a massive game between the favorite to win it all this year in Texas against the defending national champion in Ohio State. It's not only the biggest game this week, like I said before, it might be the biggest regular season game that we get all year.
It's an odd dynamic there that you have the team that is.
What y'all think, man? What y'all thoughts, man? Who y'all think gonna win this game, man? I just want to be a good game, man. We keep building the hype, and I ain't want to see no damn blowout. Not the first week. And I don't know. I really think Texas is gonna win this game, man, because Ohio State lost too many pieces, and I really don't know much about them. I didn't know if they replaced those pieces like that. You just can't replace those pieces like that, those big pieces like that, in a year. I don't know, man. I don't. Yeah, I really think. Yeah, I really think Texas is gonna win this game, man. I really do. Really do, man. But hey,
is the favorite to win the national title with a Manning and everything at quarterback, and yet the books are picking them to lose this game. So you're telling me they're going to lose this game and then they're going to run the table? Is that what we're doing?
I guess that's what they're saying.
Or how do those odds change when they do?
I'm not
lose
telling
this
you that,
game?
by the way. We'll get to our picks
I
later.
mean, we're going to get there, but it just that's an odd dynamic there that we have both of those things. They're the favorite to win it all, but not this week.
Yeah.
A little strange.
First
Maybe-
time ever that number one is not favored.
Not fans of Arch Manning, are they?
Maybe not.
Could that be it? I'll tell you who is a huge fan of Arch Manning. We are. Absolutely. And if you thought I was going to talk about anything else in this Texas offense, you're dead wrong. We're talking about Arch Manning, Max. Look, 88 PFF grade last year, 81 passing grade, 80 rushing grade. Small sample, obviously, but 233 total snaps. The only other quarterback in the country with an 80 passing and rushing grade was Arizona State's Sam Levin. He brought his team to the playoff last year and won the Big 12. 6.4% big-time throw rate. That holds. That's elite stuff. 1.9% turnover-worthy play rate. That holds. That's elite stuff. I'll say it. I've said it all summer. I'll say it again. This is a Manning that can run. That's ridiculous to me, right? Now, he gets to face maybe the best defensive player in the country.
Does.
And a pretty darn talented secondary still with Caleb Downs and this Ohio State unit. Look, they lost just about their entire front seven. That might be an advantage to Manning, right? I think Ohio State lost their 5 or 6 leaders in pressures last year.
That's also a huge matchup considering Texas is a completely rebuilt offensive line. That's going to be really interesting to see what unit wins that battle.
You have a weird dynamic thing where you have this young Texas offensive line against this young Texas defensive line. But what we do know is Ohio State does have a talented secondary. Caleb Downs, second best PFF grade in the country at safety over the last 2 years as a true freshman and sophomore. Davison Igbinosun on the outside. You're talking about talented young players.
These guys give me the feeling that they're going for Ohio State too. I mean Texas also. Yeah, I really think Ohio State gonna lose this game. Man, I really got Texas, man, for this game, man. I think they're sleeping on Texas.
Players like Devin Sanchez, Jermaine Matthews on the outside who played a good amount last year. This is still going to be, to me, the chess match is Arch Manning and Caleb Downs, though. Caleb Downs is the chess piece. He can do anything you want in a football field. Best safety in the country. I would argue the best defensive player in the country right now. I would argue the number one player in next year's big board right now. If I had to pick the best draft prospect for next year, I'm taking Caleb Downs. You're going to get this chess match, and what Arch Manning's going to have to do at all times in his dropbacks, you have to know where number 2 is.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know where he is, I'll tell you what, he's coming. He's coming to the football because that's what he does. He's one of the smartest safeties I've seen in a long time. I mean, he's just one of those guys who you have to be aware of at all times, okay? Ohio State, they gave up explosive completions at the 10th lowest rate last year. We know Texas wants to create explosive plays. Could be tough. Individual matchup, Caleb Downs. Might see him on tight end. Jack Endry's your number 2 tight end in the country, the transfer from Cal. There's so many dynamics of this where I just think it's Arch Manning versus Caleb Downs. And you got the quarterback on the offense, you got the quarterback of the defense, and I think he's going to have time in the pocket to work with. Especially, look, Texas, they're going to run the ball. They're still going to go with a high rate of play action. They always do that. Manning himself is going to be an option threat. But in the passing game, it's him versus Downs. And again, we also don't know in coverage what we're going to see from Matt Patricia, their new defense coordinator, because Jim Knowles at Penn State. So there's a lot of ambiguity around this game. But to me, the 2 guys I'm looking at, obviously,
Matt Patricia, he went to college. Matt Patricia, man, he in college. I thought he retired.
Manning and Caleb Downs on the defensive side, it's going to be a whole lot of fun to watch in the passing game.
And I can't wait to watch the other side of the ball. The best receiving core in college football against the best secondary in college football. I said it before. This is probably the biggest week 1 matchup of the entire regular season. This is probably the best individual matchup we'll get the entire regular season too between these 2 right here. Ohio State is breaking in a brand new quarterback in redshirt freshman Julian Sayin, who was the number 2 quarterback coming out of high school a couple years ago, top 10 recruit overall, obviously a 5-star too. He has plenty to work with as the new starter at Ohio State. Jeremiah Smith is not just the best receiver in college football. He is the best player in college football right now. As just a true freshman last year, he was the most valuable receiver in the country according to PFF's wins above average metric. He's on the cover of EA College Football 26, led the Power 4 with 15 receiving touchdowns last year, and only Tedero McMillan had more receiving yards than Jeremiah Smith last year.
Yeah. You know who? Big Ted. Big Ted. You already know who he at. My game, my South Carolina, Carolina Panthers, man.
In the Power 4 as well. And Ohio State added my number 3 tight end in the country, tight end 1 for both Connor Rogers and Trevor Sikkema in the 2026 NFL Draft, and Purdue transfer Max Clare coming in, and Carnell Tate could be a first-round pick in the 2026 NFL Draft. So by all accounts, it's once again an elite receiving core for Ohio State. But Texas might have the defense to match up with it. Texas, in my opinion, has the best secondary in college football. My number 4 safety in the country in Michael Taft, my number 6 corner in the country, and Malik Muhammad. Taft was the 4th most valuable safety in America last year, according to PFF's wins above average metric. The only safety returning to college football who was more valuable than Michael Taft, Caleb Downs. You just talked about.
Good player.
Very good player. And Malik Muhammad, over the last 2 years, is the 4th most valuable returning Power 4 corner in that same metric. And we saw last year too, Dalton, Texas's defense had some success against Ohio State's passing game. Jeremiah Smith had, 3 receiving yards in that game?
One catch for 3 yards in that game.
So I know Jahdae Barron's gone.
They were the one team that did it. They were the one team that slowed him down.
I know Andrew Makuba's gone. I know Jahdae Barron's gone too, but I still think this Texas secondary is absolutely loaded. So yes, there is also question marks with Ohio State's offensive line, but if you're looking for the most star-studded matchup in week 1, look no further than Ohio State's receiving core against Texas' secondary.
And I think the overarching piece along with that secondary is defensive coordinator Pete Kwiatkowski.
Yep.
Because he's going to do it with a variety of complicated zone coverages and rotations. And yes, they lost Jahdae Barron and Andrew Makuba, but they have a boatload of talent and experienced talent, especially with Michael Taft at free safety kind of running the show. He's the glue guy back there. All those zone coverages, and you could see when you watched Texas defense last year against Ohio State, it wasn't just complicated zone coverages. They were making a point, every effort they could, to just go, number 4 can't catch the football. They were basically not just doing zone drops. They were just turning and running at him. I mean, that's really where it was. Is we're going to make Ibuka beat us. We're going to make Carnell Tate beat us. Ibuka's obviously was a first-round.
Yeah, and that's another thing, man. Buka is gone too. And Ohio State keep good wide receivers coming in, so they're not gonna be an issue. But that's that quarterback. I don't know who their quarterback. Do y'all know? Their quarterback? Do y'all know? I don't even know, man. I wasn't even paying attention. College don't put out much information like NFL do.
Pick. He's in Tampa Bay now. We're going to make somebody else beat us. We don't care how many resources we have to put on this guy. I expect to see the same. I think Ohio State's going to have a really big game, especially from Carnell Tate. And Max Clare is an interesting development there, because I know they got some production in last year's game out of G. Scott, but Max Clare is a dynamic player, super good athlete. I didn't even know Trevor and Connor had him tight end 1.
Yep.
That tells you all you need. When Trevor and Connor say a guy's tight end 1, probably pretty darn good. If they can find a way to use him down the middle in this offense and open up that's the one different dimension than they had in last year's playoff game, then you really start talking about something. But I expect Texas and Pete Kwiatkowski again to use every resource available to not let Jeremiah Smith take this game over. You just can't let him do it.
Yeah. Ohio State has not had a tight end selected in the day 2 of the NFL draft since 2022 with Jeremy Rucker. I'm looking for the last time they had a second-round tight end. I think Max Clare right now, I would say, is probably a projected second-round pick. It has been a very long time. I'm still scrolling back right now. It has been at least in the 21st century. They've never had one. First-round pick Ricky Dudley in 1996. So Max Clare could be the highest drafted Ohio State tight end in 29, almost 30 years now. So I think he's a very talented player. He could be huge in that receiving core. Dalton, in what could be the biggest game of the year, a game between the favorite to win it all in Texas and the defending national champion in Ohio State, a rematch of last year's college football playoff semifinal that came down to the wire. Who will win between Texas and Ohio State?
I think there's a couple big factors here that, to me, are in the advantage of the road team, Texas. One, we got to remember the coaching turnover that Ohio
Yes.
State's had on their side, too. They're going from Chip Kelly and Jim Knowles at each coordinator spot to now Brian Hartline, their wide receivers coach on offense, and Matt Patricia, former Patriots, Lions coach, all that stuff. He's going to be their defensive coordinator. And you know me, Ohio State's national title run, yes, the players were great. Jeremiah Smith, best player in the country. Chip Kelly and Jim Knowles' adjustments going into the playoff and through the 4 playoff games, I think were as big as any player on the field winning them these games, right? So that's one, and you've got a Texas team returning both its play callers, obviously, in Steve Sarkisian and Pete Kwiatkowski, right? And Kwiatkowski, I thought, easily could have won the Broyles Award last year. He was just spectacular, right? That's one. Two, the one guy we haven't mentioned yet, you did very, very briefly. I think Colin Simmons might be the best player on the field in this game because Ohio State's offensive line wasn't consistently great last year. Now you lose Donovan Jackson. Josh Simmons obviously not there anymore. You got some, I don't want to say inexperience up front, but I'm not as sure on Ohio State's offensive line either, especially at tackle. Ethan Onyanwa coming up from Rice. Austin Searveld moving over to left tackle. I believe he's going to start at left tackle.
Left tackle, yeah.
Colin Simmons, I think, is the name to watch here. And I know you have him as your number 1 edge rusher in the country heading into this season. He's a dynamic player. And Julian Sayin, on top of having to read all of these complicated coverages from Kwiatkowski, and he's going to throw everything and the kitchen sink at him. One-on-one, Colin Simmons is the biggest problem to block in this game. I think he could have a huge game as a pass rusher. I do think it's going to be tight. It's at the Horseshoe. Ohio State has their weapons. If Sayin can keep his composure, obviously they can win this game. I'm going Texas. I've got it 27-23. Fascinating football game. I think Manning may even have his difficulties with downs in this secondary, but I believe when we get to this review on Sunday, I think Colin Simmons will have been the best player on the field. I think that's a big difference.
I'm also taking Texas. Donnie actually shouted out my exact score in the chat, 27-24. I have it a little bit closer than you. I also have Texas winning. I think right now the Longhorns have fewer question marks than the defending national champs. Right now, I think Arch Manning will have a pretty good game in his first real game, big-time game as a starting quarterback for Texas. I know he started a couple games last year for them too. And then, you mentioned it. With that Texas defense, they're the best linebacker unit in the country, the best secondary in the country, the best edge rusher in the country in Colin Simmons. It's a tough test for Julian Sayin, the redshirt freshman, to win. So I think even though Ohio State is favored in this game, both Dalton and I are taking the quote-unquote upset. It's weird to say an upset for the number 1 team in the country to win the game, but we're both taking Texas.
Ohio State, man.
Next up is another SEC versus ACC.
Yeah, but that's it, man. What y'all think, man? What y'all think going? What y'all think gonna happen, man, for the season, man? What y'all think? What y'all thoughts? What y'all think gonna happen, man? Hold on, give me a second, check. What y'all thoughts, man? What y'all think gonna happen? Who y'all think gonna win, man? This weekend football, and Colorado is playing tomorrow also. But yeah, make sure y'all lock in, man. I might go live. I'm gonna try to go live Saturday to watch a couple games. Make sure y'all definitely lock in, man, with your boy, man. I can go another 10 minutes. But yeah, let me know y'all thoughts in the comments, man. Make sure y'all follow me on TikTok, Instagram. Just follow me on everything. Just type my name in, I should pop up. Just make sure y'all lock in, man. I'll drop a couple shorts, a couple videos on TikTok today, man. Make sure y'all catch up on it. And what y'all thoughts, man, on that shocking news today about Michael Parsons, man, being traded to the Packers, man. What y'all thoughts on that, man? How y'all think? Let me know how y'all feel in the chat. Let me know, man. Make sure y'all get get my likes up, get my subs up, most definitely, man. Cause when I get a certain mark, what I want to get to, I'm gonna do a giveaway. Most definitely, man. I'm gonna do a giveaway, man. Y'all, I think y'all want to be around for it. I don't know where it's gonna be yet, but I don't know wherever it is, man. I'm gonna be sure to let y'all know wherever it is. Uh, yeah, make sure y'all follow me. Let me know y'all thoughts, man. What y'all thoughts on the Michael Parsons video? I mean, on the Michael Parsons trade. Uh, I think the Packers they're trying to win a championship, man. They're trying to win now. And they think they got the right wide receivers. They got a young team, and they think they got the team doing now. And they just paid the quarterback. They didn't pay no wide receivers yet. I think them guys due for some money. But I think they got the team now to win. They paid the quarterback. Now they paid Michael Parsons. Man, Michael Parsons, man, make that defense look scary, man. The only thing about him, seems like he don't show up when the game is when it's needed, when the game on the line, when it's a big game, big playoff game. You seem like he not seen, man. He not nowhere to be found. Like he's gone ghost. But yeah, man, make sure y'all check that video out, man. Let me know how you feel, man. What y'all thoughts on it, and yeah, let me know y'all thoughts on that. But yeah, man, make sure y'all check me out, man. I got some things coming up. Make sure y'all want to be around for it, man. I'm making moves. Uh, trying to make some moves, man. I think y'all want to be around as the channel grows, man. I'm gonna remember who showed love, who didn't. But I'm gonna show love regardless, man. I'm not that type of person. But yeah, I think y'all want to be around, man. For uh for the upcoming things I got coming, man. Think y'all want to be around, show love for it. Yeah, make sure y'all tune in, man, cause and keep the notification keep that the notification bells on, cause I'm most definitely ain't no telling when I'm gonna go live. I might pop up, especially since football is a full go. Make sure y'all be around, man, cause yeah, make sure y'all keep them try excuse me, Chad, trying to do a little editing and stuff at the same time. But I'm gonna put this down. But yeah, man, make sure y'all keep y'all notification bell on. Make sure you hit that notification bell, sub, cause ain't no telling when I'm gonna go live. When I'm gonna go live, man, make sure y'all hit that hit the notification bell. Yeah, make sure y'all do that, man. Yeah, yeah, make sure y'all do that. Make sure y'all sub. Yeah, let me know y'all thoughts, man, on that Michael Parsons trade. Let me know how y'all feel about that. And give me y'all score prediction, man, in the chat. Give me y'all score prediction in the comments. Give me y'all score prediction. Let me know, man, who you pulling for this weekend. Ohio State, Texas. Let me know, man, who y'all pulling for, man. South Carolina, Virginia Tech, Alabama, Florida State. Who else playing this weekend, chat? Uh, I don't know. It's plenty of good games, man. And Colorado also playing tomorrow. Also, make sure y'all check that game out. I don't know. And make sure, man, y'all get y'all bets on too, man. I drop a video, man. Who to bet on, man. I do the spread. I'm gonna try to get into the players, but make sure, man, y'all check that out, man. Y'all get y'all money, man. I'm gonna try to run it up, man. Run it up. Make sure y'all lock in. Tell me, man, cause I'm gonna get it. I want y'all to get it also, man. But yeah, I'm gonna give y'all some West some websites